No, you've just told me all throughout the year. You told me he'd win the Grade 2 at the November meeting at Cheltenham. He got beaten by an Alex Hales rag for pleasure. Hello and welcome back to the Day 4 preview of the Cheltenham Festival for 2021. Gold Cup Day here on Let's Talk Racing with myself and Josh. I really hope you've enjoyed the first 3 previews. If you haven't checked them out, do go and do so. We've had some great responses to the first couple of videos. Can't thank you all enough for the lovely comments down below, the informative chat, the likes, and obviously anyone that's been a new subscriber. We've had 300 subscribers in the last, I think, 4 or 5 days, Josh. So the thing is booming coming to Cheltenham, and it's brilliant to be involved and doing these videos with yourself.
Booming. That seems like you said that on purpose with this day in mind. Yeah, yes. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you very much for all the support that we have received on this. And if you're a new subscriber, thank you very much for becoming a subscriber. Hit the like button if you haven't already. It massively helps the channel. But yeah, the Friday, it's the day that I'm the most sad waking up, because I know that the moment the last race finishes, it's it. It's done. We've got to wait another year, and although it's brilliant racing up until then, it's still at the back of your mind, and it's, you build up to this so much throughout the whole year, and then it just gets taken away from you in a day. But there's some brilliant racing to preview. None other than the JCB Triumph Hurdle Trial, which kicks off the day, and the favourite is Zana here, second favourite Tritonic, who is impressive in the Adonis. Quilixios will definitely run here, and David Pike runs Adagio. This is an intriguing race, especially now Quilixios has moved from Gordon Elliott's to Henry de Bromhead's. Zana here, the Irish love him. Tritonic, the English love him. Who would you be siding with?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to stick with Zana here in this for the Irish Challenge. I just feel the Tritonic stuff is a little bit recency bias, and the Adonis over the last couple of years has burnt a couple of fingers. Solo last year, obviously, which Josh was all in on because it was a Paul Nicholls horse, Harry Copton, all the good stuff. But I even remember back in an Alan King horse called Radishan in the race a couple of years ago, who won the Adonis very impressively and was never cited in the Triumph Hurdle when Farclas beat Mr. Adjudicator. I just, as a result, think it's wise to take on Tritonic at the prices. I just don't think he's a good price. Zana here's done it all this year. He's beaten horses that wouldn't be, without their chance in the Fred Winter this year. The likes of St. Sam, Bustleton, maybe Druid's Altar as well. I think all of them have their chances in their respective races. So I think Zana here for me. One that I will back at a bigger price each way is Adagio. I just think that Chepstow form is being slightly trampled over in the context of this race, and certainly if Hugh Gree goes out and runs very well in the Boodles, which I know Paul Nicholls is expecting him to run quite well, that form suddenly looks red hot with himself, Nasalam and Hugh Gree. So that's something to bear in mind. He might be shorter on the back of that if he was to run well, and Adagio might be worth a couple of quid each way at 12 to 1, but Zana here for me.
I agree. We're going to go into the first on the Friday together. Tritonic, although he was by far the best flat horse, doesn't jump well enough and doesn't have as much experience that I'd like him to have. Very classy horse, but I'm not sure in the hustle and bustle, especially at Cheltenham, where jumping will be key, he'll be perfectly suited by it. I agree with Zana here. It wasn't so much his last run at Christmas, beating Bustleton by 3 lengths. I think Jack left a lot in the tank that day. It was the run before at Fairyhouse when he beat St. Sam by 14 lengths. Very impressive. I'm led to believe the Irish think that he is the next coming, and he could potentially make up into a champion hurdle horse and a horse with a massive future. Quilixios was in the yard of Gordon Elliott, and they made it very clear that Zana here was the one that they preferred. I think they definitely didn't hide the fact that he was the one. So I'm going to follow Gordon in. The second race on the Friday is over the same trip, but it's a county handicap hurdle, and I've got a Paul Nicholls cap. I've also, just in the drawer over there, I've got a Dan Skelton cap, and third time lucky. I think he's going to run here. Look, you might react like that and you might think, oh, here he goes again, but all season I've been talking about third time lucky. And it actually looks like he's going to go for the county, and he'd have a massive chance. Form around Cheltenham, 4th in the Champion Bumper behind behind Fernie Hollow and Appreciate It. That has not gone under the radar. Dan Skelton's a master of the county hurdle. He's won 2 of the last 3 renewals. He targets horses at this race. The other one that I'd quite fancy is Eclair de Beaufort for Denise Foster. Was trained by Gordon Elliott. Has a really high handicap mark over fences, I think 153, but a mark of 139 over hurdles, and this looks like it's been the plan all along, and when Gordon's got a plan in his head, he usually executes it to absolute perfection. So Eclair de Beaufort to finish 2nd to 3rd time lucky. I've wanted to say that for a long time. Why are you shaking your head? What have you got against 3rd time lucky?
Because 3rd time lucky.
Because he's not trained in Ireland, and he's not trained by Willie Mullins or Paul Nolan.
Well, Paul Nolan, that would be a different story completely. I'm surprised you've got a hand left the amount of times 3rd time lucky must have burnt your fingers this year.
He's won 3 out of the 5 starts.
No, you've just told me all throughout the year. You told me he'd win the Grade 2 at the November meeting at Cheltenham. He got beaten by an Alex Hales rag for pleasure from the front. Should have won, didn't win. Then he won a tin pot novice hurdle at Kempton, beating Flicko Voyou, who was carrying a £7 winner's penalty. Then you told me he'd win the Betfair hurdle before going on to the Supreme. Didn't turn up in the Betfair hurdle. Anti-post slips thrown in the bin. Then went up to Musselburgh to run in what looked a straightforward penalty kick. They go up, he's 4 to 5, and Bareback Jack for my man Brian Hughes devours him. Bareback Jack himself has been devoured since. So the form of that doesn't even look very good. And he's in here off 143. And I'm just wondering, when are we going to see him win one of these races you're telling me to win? Because a bit like what people are telling me to do on Twitter with Windsor Avenue, sometimes you just got to give some of these cliff horses the old snip.
Before the Betfair hurdle, I said that he'd run in either the Betfair hurdle or the county, and they'd go for one of the big handicaps. They skipped the Betfair hurdle. Now you're telling me you've got a Supreme Novice Hurdle contender and you prep him at Musselburgh on the 7th of February.
I just think they went up there. They can't have gone up there thinking he'd finish 4th.
They wouldn't have gone to Musselburgh as a Supreme Novices Hurdle prep. I'm convinced they've had this in mind and they're just keeping it on the down low. He targets these races, and we thought it was Kadzand, and he was disappointing in the Betfair hurdle. He'd still have a squeak here, but maybe in the back of his mind all season, Dan has looked at 3rd time lucky and said, "You'd be perfect. A strong gallop over 2 miles on a furlong would be right up his street." He's a staying 2-miler. He was ridden to place in the Champion Bumper last year, and I think that he's got an absolutely brilliant chance. I'm sticking by him. He won 2 nice races at the start of the year, albeit that the form is pretty weak, but they were just fairly standard novice hurdles. The run at Cheltenham behind For Pleasure, no one was going to catch him on the ground that day. It was silly from Harry Skelton. I think he'd be the first person to tell you to give him that much room. He was the only one that came out of the pack to challenge For Pleasure that day. He made up a few lengths on the running. He's got good form around Cheltenham. I think there's still a very good horse in there, and I think that he is underestimated of a mark of 143. And Dan Skelton is the king of the county hurdle. When 3rd time lucky wins the county hurdle on the Friday, you're the first person I'm going to call. You're the first person. I'm going to tweet you. I'm going to be unbearable.
Hopefully if Run Wild Fred's won on the Thursday, I might still be in bed hungover by the time 3rd time lucky runs in the county. But yeah, look, Dan Skelton is the master of this race. He'd want to be the master of this race given the fact that I've seen 5 or 6 horses trained by Dan Skelton be put up for this race throughout varying points of this year. 3rd time lucky now being the one that looks like he's going to be their runner in it. He brings decent enough form to the table. It'd be very interesting. At the top of the market, you have a lot of horses that have dual entries in the Supreme. If any of those Irish novices run in this rather than the Supreme or the Ballymore, I'd be interested in almost all of them that have that appreciated form. I don't think Blue Lord will run, but the likes of an Irascible might run for Henry de Bromhead. I know he's said that he might go for the Supreme. I'd love to see him here. I was disappointed. I was quite keen on the Devil's Coachman for this race. It looks like they're skipping, well no, they are skipping Cheltenham and they're going to Fairy House with him.
Ganapathy.
Yeah, another one that brings that type of form to the table, unexposed. I wouldn't be... It's a hard race just right at this moment in time, because at the top of the market you've no idea which ones of these are going to turn up. So it's probably something that you're going to have to wait to the day for me to see which one of these Irish novices does turn up. One that if he did, an English horse, if he turned up in this, I don't know, he has a couple of entries, is the Nigel Tristan Davis trained Gowl Road. I don't know whether this entry, he's got the Martin Pipe, he's in off 137. I just thought he was very good at Newbury the last day, beating Good Ball of Paul Nicholls, who's not a bad horse in his own right. He has form with Bear Gills from earlier in the season that looks not too bad. He's won his last two. He's 25 to 1 non-runner no bet. That's not the worst bet in the world, I don't believe. But the County Hurdle, a hard race to make sense of right now. But certainly, probably for my own pride more than anything, hoping that Third Time Lucky doesn't do the business.
Fire attack for Joseph O'Brien. Won't run here. He'll run in the Martin Pipe.
We move on to the third race of the day, the Albert Bartlett Novices Hurdle. Was probably one of the greatest finishes of the week last year. You can't stop me banging on about it. It has to be name dropped in every single video. Doesn't look as good a renewal this year, there's no getting away from that, but it's a very interesting betting heat as a result. Statler the favourite, but a bit of a tenuous favourite at that, I'd have to say. Fakira and Tory Graf in there for Denise Foster, a couple others in there, the likes of Barbados Bucks. Josh, the last time we talked about the Albert Bartlett, you were just about leaning towards Tory Graf of the Gordon Elliott pair. Is that still where you are?
I think so. Statler would have to go there with a big chance. The one I couldn't have is Barbados Bucks. I'm not sure the form of any of his races has come up to much, and the 2 wins at Southall, the second at Stratford, it's not glamorous, put it that way. And if he was really a top-notcher for Paul Nicholls, I'm not convinced he'd be running there. Alaphilippe, Fergal O'Brien, there'd be nothing that would make me more happy than Fergal O'Brien training a Cheltenham Festival winner. He's got a few good chances this year. Tory Graf, going back to the form in the race that Monkfish won last year, he was very impressive that day. The second, Angel's Dawn, has come out and finished close second in a Grade 3 since. 8 to 1 each way would be my play in that. I
think I'd be siding with Statler still. I just think he's a very likeable horse. I think he will be ridden with more restraint than he was at Leopardstown the last day. I know there'll be some people out there that are muggy each way betters, and I don't think you'll find almost a better muggy each way bet than Statler's 11 to 2 for this race, because I just can't see him out of the 4. That being said, I have backed him to win the race, and I do think he's got the biggest chance of all of them. I do think he's got a bit of class. Hopefully that can come out in this race. One that I mentioned actually in our novice hurdle preview was Streets of Doyen of John McConnell's. I still quite like him. I'm still going to back him at 25 to 1 each way. You might even get a bigger price on the day because it's a smaller trainer, but it's been confirmed he will run in the race, which is great. And I wish John the best of luck. We have in my horse racing syndicate, we have a horse with John McConnell, so he's a very nice man. He's a very good up-and-coming trainer. He does well with the horses he has, and I'd love him to have a runner do very well over in Cheltenham. So hopefully Streets of Doyen might be that.
Now we move on to the showpiece of the whole week, the Cheltenham Gold Cup. Fantastically sponsored by Wellchild, the Boum, 3 years in a row. Andrew, I'm going to give you as much time as you need to get this out. Why is our Boum Photo not going to be beaten in the Cheltenham Gold Cup?
I think he just has the beating of all these horses that he's running against. I think he's the most solid in there. He's just a super horse. God, people love to grab this horse. Especially, I must confess, I do buy in, and sometimes it is overplayed, but there's no way in hell this horse would receive the abuse he does if he was trained by an English trainer. There's just no way in hell. It's just the fact he goes to Tramore, a less fashionable Irish track, let's just put it that way, then rocks up in the Gold Cup. It was disappointing last year because Punchestown wasn't on. He does usually go on to Punchestown, which at least you then see him 3 times a year, which is better than 2. I know it's still not much, but God, I absolutely love this horse. I adore him.
Really?
No, I've mentioned it every now and then, just in passing language, really, but... the only way I'm getting back off the floor with Third Time Lucky, if he wins the County Hurdle, the only way I'm getting back off the floor is if Boum Photo goes and wins the Gold Cup, because I'll be silencing all the doubters out there. And I was captured once. The first time he won the Gold Cup, I was shouting and roaring out my attic window. I may throw myself out the attic window if he goes and wins it for a third year in a row. That's how excited I'll be. But I do think he's got the winning of the race. Look, you can make your case for a couple of horses in there, the likes of Champ, A Plus Tard, Minella Indo. They have it to find. There's no getting away from that. And hopefully he can do the business.
What would you say about me criticising the form of last year's Gold Cup? If you go through it, Santini second, beaten a neck. He's not done anything since. Lost in Translation has looked lost since. Monolly isn't a grade 1 3-miler. Delta Work, Real Steel doesn't look himself. Paul Nicholls, Kenboy, Clandezobo. I thought that race looks pretty poor, and I'm absolutely convinced that both the Plus Tard and Champ are better than the horses that he beat in that race. So if he is going to win a third Gold Cup, he's going to have to put in a serious performance.
The only thing I would do is, if you're telling me that, which is completely within your means to do so, and I know for both horses they may not be 2-milers, but you've got to take the prep that they've had. Are you really telling me So Royale, a horse that could never win a champion chase, and Castle Grace Paddy, the horse that beat A Plus Tard, that's not exactly premium form in the book either for his 2 market principles.
But Champ isn't a 2-miler. They went there, he jumped a lot better than he has. Champ needs Nico to make his mind up for him when jumping. And he's not a 2-miler. I'd actually think he'd win the Ryanair pretty comfortably. I think 2.5 miles, and attacking 2.5 miles will be right up his street. He doesn't like gears. I don't think many people expected him to run as well as they did at Newbury. The slight concern is, will he settle? I think it's going to be very different running in a fast-paced 2-mile race at Newbury, being chucked at fences, compared to being asked to settle over 3 miles and 2 furlongs. But you'd like to think that Native River and Frodon will give a good gallop, which would definitely help Champ. I'm going to side with him. I've taken on Boum Photo the last 2 years, and I've had my fingers burned. He's been brilliant, and I completely hold my hand up to that. I'm just not going to stop there. I think he's got the most talent. If he can put it all together, I think he'll win. That's obviously a big if. If he can get into a nice early rhythm, that's going to be key.
There's some saying about fool me once, fool me twice sort of thing. That kind of applies to you and Boum Photo, surely.
Champ for me, Boum Photo for Andrew. Let's move on to the St James's Palace Foxhunters Challenge Cup. A race that you don't see these horses very often. They're usually running in points at points. It's very difficult to get a grip on some of the runners here. Billaway leads the market. He was second in the race to It Came to Pass last year. He looks like he's matured more. Do we think that he has matured and he will win this, and the price is reflective?
He's got every chance. Ability-wise, it's a little bit like Champ, I suppose, in the Gold Cup. If he was to put it all together, yes, he'd win this race. I just don't know. Like, they've gotten 3 runs into him this year to try and boost his experience, and he still looks just as ignorant over a fence as he did at the start of the year. I wouldn't be taking the short odds, especially in a race like this. And I backed last year's winner, It Came to Pass. I wouldn't look into that Thurles run the other week at all. Hates heavy ground. Maxine O'Sullivan barely breathed on the horse. Interesting to see who they'll get to ride him. Because obviously no amateur jockeys. Eugene O'Sullivan wouldn't have many connections with...
It's Richie McLernan.
Richie McLernan, that's very interesting. He'd be a good type of rider. He is a hold-up horse. Get him into some sort of rhythm. I think on better ground, I think you'll see a much better horse. 8-1, I think that's a fair price.
The one I might be siding with is Staker Wallace for Enda Bolger. He finished second to Billaway last time out at Nace. He'd be one at the prices. I think he's roughly about 10-1, best price 11-1. Let's move on then to the Mare's Chase, the first time we've ever previewed this race. And I think the cert on the Friday, I don't want to say cert, that's a horrible thing to say, nothing's a cert at Cheltenham, but the one I'd be most confident with backing a winner is Ellie May. Mullins' record in the Mares Only races speaks for itself. I think he's trained 14 of the 18 Mares Only races that have ever ran at the Cheltenham Festival, and that strike rate is ridiculous. She beat Shattered Love over 2 miles last time. I'm not sure Annie Mack is as good as the Irish, and Cora Reevy's not a definite runner. So Ellie May, for me, do you agree? Do you think that Ellie May is the one we can all pin our hopes on on the Friday.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so. I really hope Ellie May gets the job done. I wouldn't be sure on Colreevy, even if she actually runs in the race. I'd be very keen to take her on. I'm not sure she's quite as good going left-handed. She's 0 from 3 left-handed, including 2 bad defeats at Cheltenham, and got turned over in a bumper at Leopardstown at odds on a couple of years ago. And I'd actually be playing the forecast with Shattered Love in this as well for a small stake. I think Shattered Love has every chance of running well. She loves Cheltenham. She's won a JLT there before. This is a monumental step down in class from the last 2 years where she's contested the Gold Cup and the Ryanair. So back more into her scene in a Grade 2 mare's chase. She escapes a penalty as well, which is very interesting. But no, Ellie May hopefully can do the business for us. And if it has been a long old Friday, you're really hoping the get out might be Ellie May.
I agree. I think JP McManus will have a good week as he did last year, and there could be one lurking in the Martin Pipe, the one race that closes the Cheltenham Festival. We've been very keen on wide receiver all year, very fancy prices, now into the third favourite, Amante Post, 8 to 1 it looks like, and I was very keen on the horse until the handicap weights came out. And Gentleman to Me got 139. I really thought that he'd be too high in the weights to even get in. It's obviously top weight 145. You can't be higher than 145, and he got a mark of 139. If there is going to be a Saint Roir from last year who was absolutely chucked in for JP McManus at the Cheltenham Festival this year, we could be waiting until the final race of the 28. He won an ace maiden hurdle impressively. And I'm sure after Willie Mullins was mentioning the likes of the Supreme Novices Hurdle, at the Ballymore, to the fact that he's got a rating of 139 and he's chucked in here with little experience, he screams the Saint Roir profile.
Oh, I'm very concerned. Yeah, it'd be hard not to be. I'm not sure. Look, he just, the thing with Gentleman to Me is he could be just so much better than this mark. I don't think the overall form on face value at an ace is that brilliant. The third horse, Dreaming and Hoping, who was only beaten 8 lengths, actually got beaten 10 lengths at Wexford today in a mare's maiden hurdle, and the 5th horse runs tomorrow at Thurles. So that will tell us a little bit more about the form, but it doesn't look great at face value, but he won with so much in hand that could be kind of irrelevant. The McManus Willie Mullins horse might be a fly in the ointment.
Gentleman to Me does look chucked in, and hopefully he can finish the week with a flyer and bury this man. I'm sick of looking at him. I'm sick of seeing that smile. It's just so frustrating. Every time I mention third time lucky all season, it's I mention my nap of the week. You can't please you. I couldn't imagine being the girlfriend.
Yeah, well, at least she doesn't give me spoofers in the county hurdle. She just keeps her mouth shut about the county hurdle.
Yeah, whatever. I do hope you've enjoyed the 4 previews that we've made on Let's Talk Racing. Thank you very much for watching them all if you have. And if this is the first one you've watched, do go back and have a look at the previous 3. I think the last thing to say is have a brilliant week. Fingers crossed you have a profitable week as well, punting wise. I'm sure you can keep up to date with both of us on Twitter. I know I'm going to be extremely active on there, and I think you will as well. So our final selections will be over on Twitter, so do go and follow us there. Thank you so much for watching this little series. Yeah,
just thanks to everyone for getting involved, and hopefully that will continue after Cheltenham. I'm sure we'll do plenty of reviews and look forward to the Grand National on Punchestown, Ferry House. Still plenty more national hunt racing after it as well. So this is the first of hopefully many different series that you're going to see on Let's Talk Racing, and hopefully the channel will continue to grow as it is right now.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you after the Cheltenham Festival. Let's bring it on. Fingers are firmly crossed that Entucus can win the Grand Annual.